Welcome to A Little Bit Scattered podcast. My name is Becky, and I live here in Portland, Oregon, with my husband, our 3 teenagers, and we've got a black lab and 7 chickens that lay great eggs for us. And this is my first podcast, so I am really excited to be here. I'm filming in my office. I always just called it my office. It's a little room downstairs from our main area where our kitchen and family room and dining room are. And it's actually the first room that I decorated when we first moved in here. You know, like any home, you want to make it your own, you want to personalize it. And my husband and I love to redecorate, design, especially interior designing. It's one of our passions. We've always done it with all of our houses. And then 2 years ago, we actually bought a couple houses to flip them and did the whole redesign of that. So that's another one of our passions. And but when we moved into this house, it was too much to take on, and so I needed to do something. And this little space was a great space to do something while we had to wait for bigger projects in this house. So I've loved it ever since I've done it. It's mostly Goodwill things and just really easy, like painting and curtains, but I still love it. And so now it's kind of developed into my knitting, spinning. You can see my wheel back here, room. And then I also do some dyeing. I'm excited about the podcast because I've been watching other podcasts, especially knitting, crafting, crocheting, dyeing, spinning. And they're just so inspirational. And I just wanted to add my voice into this community, and hopefully I can be an inspiration to others, and then also be inspired by all of you. I love this idea of connecting with other people of like interests all over the world. So I love this platform. I love that YouTube has become so accessible and available. So anyway, just diving into this realm as well. I'm going to probably start out mostly with knitting, dyeing. I'm really getting into dyeing bare wool, and so that's super fun. So I'm going to kind of invite you into where I am in the process. And then spinning is actually my latest passion, and so I'm just getting into it. I took some lessons from a wonderful woman who helped me, and she just taught me the world of spinning. And so I was just thinking this morning, I need to be spinning probably every day just to get to a place where I'm comfortable and I feel like I'm producing a level of yarn that I could start knitting with. So all of that's kind of a long intros, but want to just jump right in, because what I love about these podcasts is just seeing what everybody's making. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with my finished objects. And it's kind of funny to start here because I have lots of finished objects that none of you have seen. So I'm just going to start with just kind of where I've been lately, and then as new things kind of pop up, I'll share those, and I might share some old stuff that I've never shared online, but we'll start here. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing right now. This is the Fresh Mint, and I used a yarn that's kind of a cotton linen. It's a Naturalin. It's discontinued. I actually found the yarn at Tuesday morning, and just picked it up. It's hard to tell on this, but it's a really pretty, just seeing if I have other skeins, it's a pretty kind of deep, almost eggplant color. Here's the pattern. Super cute little camisole tee. I love the lace. It was top down, very easy. I get compliments on it all the time. I wore it to work the other day, and that's the other thing. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and my husband and I always joke about how knitting is actually my therapy. So, but I was sitting through session, and at the end of the session, my client, we were standing up to say goodbye, and she's like, I just have been looking at your sweater the whole session, and I love it. And I told her, I always tell people, well, I knit it. And she's like, oh, I knit, but this is beautiful. So I may have to share the pattern with her. But yeah, it was a fun knit, quick knit. I can stand up to show you how it looks. I added this little ridge because there's a ridge here, and I just wanted to kind of continue that. It lays really well. It's great with jeans, skirt. I mean, it's just great with anything. It's just been a great summer. Sweater. Today is September 3rd. And so it's still really warm here in Portland. It's like in the 80s, and it will be. September is actually one of our most beautiful months here. It still stays really warm and sunny, but there is that little crisp in the air, which is super fun for fall. So I can still kind of pull this off, but in the evening I can pull a sweater over this or a shawl or something. Yeah, as far as like changes on this pattern, I didn't really make too many changes, except I have a long torso, so I always end up kind of extending the length on all of my sweaters, and then that ridge that I added at the bottom just for a little interest. Other than that, it was a great pattern, easy, quick, and I would make another one of these. I actually have some yarn that I got when my husband and I took a trip to Hawaii in May. And so I found a knit store in Hawaii. There's not too many. And I like to do that. I like to buy yarn wherever we travel, just because I think that's fun. And so I was thinking it's kind of a bright ocean blue, which is kind of good for Hawaii. And so I think I might make one of these out of that maybe for next summer. So that's my first object. The second one, so I love, like most of you probably, I love looking at Ravelry. It's like what it used to be like looking through a magazine back in the day for me. And now I just like scroll through Ravelry. I just love looking at patterns. I love looking at my designers that I've favorited and just see what they're up to and the new patterns they're making. And but typically what I do is I find a pattern that I like. I usually put it in my favorites and then let it sit there for a little bit. And then I go through, and every once in a while I'll just kind of update my queue, because that's kind of the top ones of my favorites that I want to put into my lineup in terms of what I want to knit next. And I am pretty spontaneous, but I rarely like look at a pattern and be like, oh, I love this and I want to buy it, except here's the exception. I saw this Bouquet sweater by Junko Okamoto, and the moment I saw it, I was like, oh, I know I need to purchase this pattern. I think what struck me, I don't know if you could see that very well on the camera, but what struck me about it is it looks like the patterning that she does on here, it looked like embroidery to me, and I just had never seen anyone use that technique, and that could just be because I hadn't seen it before, but I just loved it. And I love the marled yarn, and it's bulky and everything about it. I just loved it. So I went ahead and I purchased it like that day, that moment. And then I ordered some yarn from Brooklyn Tweed, and I I think I got, oh yeah, I got the Cascade. So I'll tell you the different yarn I bet. Well, let me show you the sweater. I finished this. So it's boxy, a little bit oversized, but it's short. It's not cropped, but it's not super long either. I mean, I have to always do it longer for me, but I just comes right kind of at my waistline, a little below, but it's not like going into like the length on my hips or anything. And what I love about it, so let's talk about the pattern, then I'll tell you the yarn. I love this because what she does is she basically does brings the yarn forward, and you kind of do floats for some of the pattern, and then you do normal color work for the other. And so you've got this interesting mixture of kind of floats on the outside. I mean, you still have tons of floats on the inside too, of course, and then it's 3 of these patterns on the top. So you do 1 here, and then you do 2 kind of in the back that straddle the sleeves, which I love. And then on the bottom, each floral pattern is different. It's not the same from on the front and the back. They're different. So it's just, it was so fun to knit because it was so interesting. Every pattern was different. I don't know if you can tell the coloring in here, but I found kind of a green. It's like not a hunter green, kind of lighter hunter green, I guess. And then it's a brown and cream marled yarn. I just love it. It just felt very fall-like to me. So sorry, I'm going to just grab the yarn that I used. Okay. So Shelter Brooklyn Tweed for the base, and this is a worsted weight. And then I got a Barocco Ultra Wool. And let's see, what's their colorway? I always love it when the stickers go right over. It's just their green. What is it called? I think I wrote it down actually. Oh, marjoram. Yeah. So it's the marjoram colorway. Again, I don't know if the color is showing up very well. It's pretty because it's got a little bit of brown and gold in there. And so I think that goes really well with the Shelter. Here we go. Marled. So love this sweater. I think it's going to be amazing in the winter and the fall. The one thing that kind of happened is as I was knitting it, my daughter, who is 17, and she's going to be a senior this year, she fell in love with it. And it's so, as you guys know, it's so hard to knit sweaters for people because I'm really picky about my sweaters, like length and color and texture. And so to knit that for somebody else is really hard unless they really know what they want. Oftentimes it just feels like it's just worth all this time to make a sweater. As you know, it takes a long time and a lot of effort. So I don't typically make sweaters. I'll make shawls and cowls and hats for people, but not sweaters. But I've wanted to make one for my daughter, but I just, I've made a couple in the past and she either hasn't worn them or they just didn't fit right or whatever. So anyway, she loved this sweater. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to reverse it. Instead of trying to make a sweater for her, if I make something that she loves, then I'll just give this to her. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and gift this to her. She'll probably wear it just a ton this year. And yeah, so I may borrow it to wear it, but I think this will be her sweater, which is fun because I want to make her sweaters. It's just, I want to make sure she just loves loves them. And she loves this. She just kept saying as I was knitting, like, Mom, that's so pretty. So that is my second finished object. And then third, I'm going to share my last project that I have worn so much. It's one of those, you can never tell. I make things and I think, oh, I'm going to wear that a ton, and then I don't. Or, oh, I think I'll like it, but then I love it. It's funny until it's done and you're wearing it. You can't ever predict totally whether or not you're going to like something. But this one just ended up being something that I grab all the time. It's Locatelli's Hipster Shawl. And I ended up making it with some of my hand-dyed yarn. So it's kind of this, I did a little variegation. So it's a little bit of it's a gray, but it was on a more of a brown base. So it kind of has a taupey color to it. But look at that. I hope you can see the patterning. So there's a pattern here, and then you've got the crisscrosses, and then at the bottom, you've got the fringe. And again, I love the way it fits. So I'm going to just throw it on here. So it wraps around my shoulders. I kind of have broad shoulders, so it wraps around my shoulders really well, and it hangs well. Some shawls, I feel like I put them on and they're always slipping off my shoulders, and it's probably because I have broad shoulders, so it's probably more my body type than it is the shawl. But this one just seems to fit really well, and I love how you can see the pattern. And then my favorite is when I just have like a light jacket on, like my denim jacket on, and I just throw this around here. Whoops. And I love the tassels. Yeah, so kind of get the idea. And I've worn it with tank tops in the summer. Even though this is a worsted wool, you'd think it would be all hot, but it's not. It's so great. Denim jacket, I wear it all the time. Cool mornings, even spring, and as we're kind of heading into fall, I was grabbing this all the time. It's just nice. When I go for a walk, I'll grab this with a t-shirt on instead of a jacket, because it's just, I can kind of wear it whatever way, and I've loved it. Loved it, loved it. The other thing that's been fun is, as I've been wearing this, my mom, my aunt, my really good best friend and business partner, they all have loved this shawl. And so I've gifted them my hand-dyed yarn. And so they're all making this hipster shawl in my hand-dyed yarn, which is super fun. I can show you. I kind of did a couple, sorry. So business partner and friend Monica, she loves orange. Orange is just her color. Every time when my daughter and I are shopping, we see something cute in orange, we're like, oh, Monica would love that. So I sent her this hand-dyed yarn, one skein of this, and then 2 skeins of kind of the darker tone in this orange. And so she made this. She said she finished it. I haven't seen it. She's going to send me a picture. I haven't seen it yet because she lives in Florida. So I'm excited to see that. She just got married not too long ago, and her husband's from Germany. So they traveled to Germany. So she can use, because you probably were all like, Florida, really? A worsted wool in Florida? But she travels to Germany quite a bit. So she'll wear that a lot in Germany. And, there are a few months that Florida gets a little chilly. And then my mom, I did kind of a burnt orange dye. for her. Same weight, same yarn that I did this in. And she's just finished putting the fringe on. So she's going to bring that over and we're going to block it together. So I'm hopefully can maybe take some pictures. Maybe I'll steal it from her and show you guys. And then my uncle's wife actually bought some yarn from me, and she did this colorway. Kind of, it's more green than it's showing up, but also really beautiful. And can you imagine? It'd be so pretty too. So, and I haven't seen hers yet either, but she lives in Texas, so it's hard to keep up with all these people, but super fun. I love when people see things on me and then want to make the pattern as well, because that's what I do. I always look and see people's things like online or in person, and then I'm like, oh, I love seeing that in person. It's so great. So those are my finished objects. That's what I'm going to share. I have some more, but I'll save that for next time. And then I want to go ahead and talk about my whips. So I have 3 things that I'm going to take this off and get warm in here. 3 things that I'm working on currently. And I have a little basket here full of my whips. A lot of you talk about this, and I don't know who I actually stole this idea from, but I love it. And it's just just working on 3 objects at a time and not doing any more than that, like limiting yourself to 3, but also giving yourself room to be able to switch back and forth and not just stay on one, because I think that's really hard. Part of why I've titled my podcast A Little Bit Scattered is because if any of you know what the Enneagram is, I am an Enneagram 7. And the description for Enneagram 7 is, although sevens may be a little bit scattered. And my daughter was like, Mom, that's what you should name your podcast. And so I was like, that's a great idea, because the personality type of 7 tends to be a little bit scattered, but in both good and bad ways, right? Like negative and positive. The positive is that 7s tend to like to do a lot of different things and have a lot of variety. And that's true of me. The downside is that we can get a little extended because there's so many interests, like, oh, I'm dabbling here and dabbling there and doing all the different things. And then all of a sudden you've got, 20 projects, and I'm working on 20 knitting projects, and I'm painting a room and canning some applesauce, so like it gets too much. So for me as a 7, I like to have a variety, but